As artificial intelligence continues to play an increasing role across the federal government, a critical issue facing IT leaders is how best to ensure the security, privacy, and control of the data and the infrastructure essential for managing AI workloads. I'm Wyatt Cash with Scoop News Group, and here to share their perspective on that is Garrett Berntsen, Deputy Chief Digital and AI Officer for Mission Analytics in the DOD's Chief Digital and Artificial Intelligence Office. Garrett, thank you so much for taking time to join us.
Thanks for having me, Wyatt.
So I'd like to kind of start with the question of what types of AI use cases are getting the most significant investment support at the DOD and through your office particularly, and how do you see those investments bringing greater innovation to your mission?
So on the mission-focused use cases, CDAO in particular has assigned the mission of CJADC2, which is Combined Joint All-Domain Command and Control. And that use case in particular, blending a lot of sensor data and sort of providing, I would say, battlefield awareness all the way from the strategic level down to the tactical level. And there, artificial intelligence can be super powerful, both for doing that fusing of the data across different types and locations. But then also once it's in the same environment, can be used for all kinds of warfighting functions, from analysis of the battlefield, prediction, and sort of, to be somewhat generic, those types of warfighting examples. I also think, though, it's important to remember that while use cases are critical, there's like a lot of underlying technology, process, training that's also required to sort of move our workforce towards this future of greater use of artificial intelligence. So we here also are making investments in actual computing power required to run these models at various classification levels. That doesn't, everyone's heard about, the need for computer chips and processing power. We invest in that area as well, so that we can provide that computing power out to other customers who are kind of inventing their own use cases, but they still need the underlying infrastructure to do it. So that's a big part of our investment and area of focus for us. And then also the training. I think it's really important and talent-focused items. We have to get the right people in the organization with these skills. It's a new skill set. The Department of Defense is aggressively trying to attract people with these skills. And we also need to upskill our own people. You're probably not going to make someone an AI engineer overnight, but even the sort of competencies associated with how do I think about using this, when should I trust it, when should I not, those are skills that are important to the whole workforce as well. So those are big areas. It's a very cross-cutting approach to AI.
Well, and just to expand on that a little, how is the CDAO evolving to meet the technology advances at a pace that best serve DOD, knowing how quickly it's trying to advance its infrastructure and software investments?
Yeah, CDAO it's in its 2.5 years, I think, since it was first created. And to kind of give it a soundbite, I think it's like we're kind of going from startup to scale. That's really the focus in the last couple months and kind of going forward. In the startup phase, you have to do different things. You have to get quick wins. You need to show traction. You need to build energy in the organization. I think we have clearly seen that energy and excitement across the services, across the entire DoD is there. And so now it's about figuring out what are the scale functions that we here in CDAO and OSD, what are we uniquely positioned to do? And those things can kind of be bucketed into 3 main areas. Enable, which is policy focused. We have an enablement role across the department. We have to build the data standards. We have to build the governance process. We have to have acquisitions vehicles in place. And those are kind of key enable activities. We also do want to do things fast. We want to do pilots. So we have a speed function. And those are capabilities that can rapidly go into a problem, kind of the data AI SWAT team approach. And we have those capabilities. deliver those through rapid project teaming, also through something called the Guide Experiment Series, the Global Information Dominance Experiment Series, GIDE. And that team rapidly tests new technology and use cases, and then takes lessons learned from that. And then the last step, which is the team that myself and one colleague, Eugene Kuznetsov, we kind of sit atop the scale bucket category, if you will. And that's when once something has been proven out as a real requirement, now it needs to be run a little differently. Now you're delivering it to 100K plus users. You're in an enterprise scale. Boring things like we need a help desk, right? I mean, if you've built a pilot, you don't need a help desk. But if you're delivering something to thousands of people, you got to have a help desk. If something goes down for 1 minute, someone could be impacted. And so that's kind of our construct that Dr. Plum announced a couple months ago. And that's kind of how we're organized. And we're thinking kind of logically about how do we, when you do a reorg, like a merger, like this organization did 2 years ago, you want the org to be greater than the sum of its parts. You don't want it just to be an amalgamation of a couple offices. And I think the real focus here is how do we get those sort of synergies across the org in a logical construct to do what we're built to do, which is advanced data and AI from the battlefield to the boardroom. And so that's how we're organizing kind of some of the changes that we are implementing in our structure.
Appreciate your laying that out. Next, I'd like to ask, the DOD just a few days ago recently held a really interesting one-day event showcasing the department's new Advana Enterprise Data and Analytics environment, and I think announced a new AAMAC to support Advana. What's the goal of Advana, and what does this new contract say about the future of AI at DOD?
So 2 days ago, we held our first industry day, and I will also say we have a RFI out right now for feedback from industry. I think it's important just to say very clearly, like, we need industry's experience and feedback. This is a big, we think this is really kind of the future of the department of warfighting, right? And so if we're going to build an acquisition strategy over the next 10 years, we need help shaping that. So I would just, anyone from industry who's watching or listening right now, we really do hope that you, one, came to the industry day and participate in future industry days, and that you respond to the RFI that is out there. So so the acquisition strategy that we announced, you called it the AAMAC. We're calling it the AMAC, which is the Advancing AI Multiple Award Contract. That is us, what to quote Gretzky, I think, is like skating where the puck is going. And so with acquisitions, you have to think long term. If you build an acquisition vehicle, you're not building it for today. You're building it for the future. And so what we have done and what we're starting to craft is a series or a big acquisition vehicle in partnership with an assisted acquisition partner in the Air Force that will be 10 years and a $15 billion ceiling for all digital modernization, including artificial intelligence in particular. And so that is us putting a stake down, skating where the puck is going, and saying we think the future is really we need this vehicle at the enterprise level to provide, to bring in industry, the best of industry regularly, and to open up to the non-traditional industrial base and let people come in to the ecosystem and join and test and pilot and scale new applications and services. So that's kind of the big idea of the AMAC. The Advana platform it's a brand, actually, the Advana, and it is a suite of platform solutions on multiple sort of security levels that really are the core set of platform and analytics services that scale box that I was talking about earlier that we sort of fit in. So two teams sort of manage and run that Advana sort of suite of analytics platform services. And this acquisition is there for us to start to add additional software capabilities to that existing platform. We have a lot of tools and a lot of great partners already, but we need to add more. And this acquisition pipeline will allow us that freedom to start testing things, piloting things, and then adding them to the broader ecosystem, and then having an acquisition vehicle that allows for our customers to tap into these non-traditional companies or traditional companies, but a wide range of AI technology companies as they move forward on their sort of digital transformation journeys.
Well, thank you for laying that out as well. Next, I'd like to zero in a little bit more on infrastructure and ask, how is the growing impact of AI shaping the way you're looking at infrastructure investment strategies, either in your office or more broadly across the Department of Defense?
The issue of infrastructure is an important one. I kind of hit on this a minute ago, but you can have all the best ideas and use cases, and if you aren't built the right way, if you don't have the tools, both software, both compute, both data, if you don't have those things handy, then you can have the best idea in the world, and you just aren't going to be able to execute it. So we absolutely are focusing. This acquisition strategy is going to help us also with that. Be able to bring in and procure when funded the appropriate compute power, the appropriate software. So we see it as absolutely pivotal to the future, and I also think CDAO, in its kind of unique role in the Office of the Secretary of Defense and OSD, we're constantly thinking about what are the things that really uniquely we should be doing as a enterprise service. And infrastructure is kind of one of those things that fits that bucket really well. You get good economies of scale if you do it centrally. Application development and use case testing and all that, that's actually a great thing for us to do in a democratized way. Let people closest to the mission get after their use case, test it, learn, share the learnings. Infrastructure is just not one of those things. It's really better for a shared service. And so we are making investments centrally and then doing it in a way where we're also assessing our own internal market. What is the demand from others? We can't it's not a build it and they will come kind of approach, but you do start to get market signals from other program offices and services, and you realize that there is a need for this stuff, for easier access to compute, to software, to data. And so we're definitely making big investments, both, I would say, structurally and from an acquisition perspective.
And then lastly, Garrett, what are the biggest issues or gaps that your organization is starting to address to take fuller advantage of AI's potential?
Big gaps exist. I think everyone accepts that. I've also worked in industry, and I will say, and have a lot of colleagues and friends still in industry, and a lot of them are also grappling with these big gaps that AI presents. It's just a big shift, and people are taking, I think, unique, approaches. Everyone's kind of got a different, way they're attempting and experimenting with this stuff. What I would say, what is one commonality though across industry and government across the board is just the need for talent. I mean, these are really rare, unique skills, in particular around AI. It's an extremely hot market for AI talent. And so we really are focusing on bringing people, motivated people into government, technologists, or taking people who don't have a ton of technology experience, but sort of trying to plow them with skills and training to make them, competent and sort of, innovators in this area in government. So huge, there is a big gap there. I think everyone across the market, across the world, there's a war for talent globally across the entire globe. So that is a huge area. We also, through Open Dagger, which is an initiative that my boss, Dr. Plum, has sort of rolled out. It's called Open Data Applications Government Owned Interoperable Repositories, Open Dagger rather. It's about kind of unlocking what can often happen in government, when you're building platforms, is you start to build this kind of walled garden. You have your set of tools, and the data lives in there, and you've got the users you've got, and you're kind of like, well, if you want in, you can come in, but you got to be kind of in the walled garden for this to work. And I think that's an area where we are starting to take a slightly different approach, where we're thinking we really need to drive interoperability and some standards and some sort of protocols to actually open things up. And that can lead to some anxiety. I mean, people who are sharing the data with you will say, well, it's only supposed to be here for this specific use case. Why, if I've shared it with you, you can't share it elsewhere. Well, we have to have processes to accelerate that sharing. And of course, we have to follow security protocols, and we have to follow policy and privacy. We are always going to do that. But I think speed and compliance don't have to be complete opposites. If you've built this the right way, with automation, with clear expectations from a policy perspective, you can do those things fast. And so that is another sort of gap we're trying to fill, to allow better interoperability across the department systems, to allow people with a mission need to access the data they need to execute their mission, and they don't want to just be told, well, your system can't have this for 1,000 reasons, and it's unclear why. They want to know clearly, what do I need to do to get my system to the standard to accept this data? And then once you've done that, let them kind of get after it and let them innovate and figure out their use case, and hopefully achieve a mission outcome. So those are two of our big holes that we're working to fill this year.
I know a lot of people would agree that open and interoperable systems are really essential if we're really to take advantage of the data that's there and then use artificial intelligence to leverage it. Garrett Berntsen, thank you so much for joining us here and just sharing your perspective from your role here in the Chief Digital and Artificial Intelligence Office at the Department of Defense. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Wyatt.